Paramparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparamparampara धीमहि तन्नो गुरुः प्रचोदयाते। ओम Yogamaharishi Dr. Swami Gitananda Giri Guru Maharaj ki jai. Om Puduvai Kalaimamani Puduvai Shakti Yogacharini Ammaji Meenakshi Devi Bhavanani Guru Mata ki jai. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om. Namaste, Vanakkam, Bonjour, Buongiorno, Buonasera, Buonanotte, Huya More, Boreida, Kia ora, Salamat Pagi, Ayu Bovan, Ayushman Baba, Shubh Dinam, Suprabhat, Salom. Welcome everyone to the Scintillating Saturdays number 107, the penultimate one. Next week will be 108, and for now we will be closing with that. But before that, we have this week to look at. And what is the topic of this week? Adhi Vyadhi. Growing up with Swamiji teaching all around the ashram, climbing up trees, running around with the deers and ducks, climbing trees with monkeys, and I nearly said swimming with sharks, but you know, me and sharks, we live on different planets. I think one of the most common statements is singing with quails, okay. Singing with quail. That's what I was being reminded. The quail goes, coo. I think one of the commonest statements I used to hear from Swamiji while he was teaching was Adhi Vyadhi. And I don't know when I first started hearing it from him, but it's been part and parcel of so much of his teaching that what happens at our level of existence, the physical level, is always influenced by something at a more subtle, higher, universal level. And he used this term Adhi Vyadhi as the yogic understanding of psychosomatics. So what is this psychosomatics? Well, you say psycho and soma. So the psyche and the soma as the body, the soma as that which we have in hand. In Indian thought, there is something called Soma Banam, which was supposed to be the nectar, ambrosia that was drunk by the gods to keep themselves youthful at all times. And everybody wanted that Soma Banam. Today people think that drinking alcohol is Soma Banam. They don't realize. But Soma is also related to the Somvar, which is the moon. So that is how that confusion used to come. Soma in this context means the body, the physical manifestation, and psyche means that which is the non-physical manifestation. So we have the non-physical psyche, the physical soma. So the relationship between the manifest and the unmanifest, the relationship between the body and that which is much more subtle, at our level we can call it the mind and above. That relationship is what is brought out when we say psychosomatics. How the mind and the body relate to each other. What is the relationship between that mind and the body? What is the relationship between the unmanifest and manifest in our lives? What is the relationship between the causal layers of existence and the gross layers of existence, and the in-between, which is the subtle levels of existence? So the relationship of the gross and the causal through the subtle can be understood to be the psychosomatics of yoga. So here we use the term Adhi and Vyadhi. Normally the term Vyadhi means disease. In fact, in the Yoga Sutra, Maharishi Patanjali tells us that one of the obstacles, there are 9 obstacles, and the first obstacle he names as disease, Vyadhi. Vyadhi, Sthana, Samshaya, Alabdha Bhumikatva, Anavasthitatva, and he goes on to that and he talks about the 9 obstacles with the 4 Sahabhuvaha, 13 in total. Vyadhi, Sthana, Pramada, Alasya, Abhirati, Bhranti Darshana, Alabdha Bhumikatva, Anavasthitattvani, Chitta Vikshepate, Antaraya. They are the Vikshepas. And the first one is Vyadhi. So the concept of Vyadhi as disease, the concept of Vyadhi as something that is an obstacle to our progress, the concept of Vyadhi as something that blocks us from being who we need to be or who we can be. So Vyadhi as not just illness, but as an obstacle to our growth. Because many people, they don't have a physical illness, but they think they have an illness. There are many people who are perfectly normal, but in the mind have decided that they are not normal and so they cannot do anything. That is where Vyadhi becomes an inner impediment to one's spiritual progress. But in this context, Vyadhi refers to the physical manifestations. And the physical manifestations in the body, in the soma, that are caused by an imbalance at a more inner, subtle layer of existence. And the origin of this can be traced back in our teachings to the Yoga Vashishta. The Yoga Vashishta, which is the huge scripture, one of the biggest scriptures in yoga. The Yoga Vashishta is the teaching of sage Vashishta. So Vashishta is the Rishi. Vashishta is the text. Sage Vashishta is called to the court of King Dasharatha. Dasharatha is the father of Lord Rama. Lord Rama, the Maryada Purusha, the Purna Purusha, the perfect human being. When he is in his teens, he is not so perfect, just like all of us. Anybody who has teenage kids knows that. And we often forget we have also gone through those terrible teens. Rama's going through his terrible teens. He is questioning everything. He's revolting against everything. What is the use of this? Why should this be there? Is life having any meaning? And none of this makes sense. All you adults are stupid. You know, all this thing that goes on in the teenage, I won't even say mind, sub-mind. So Rama's going through this. The Maryada Purusha, the perfect human being. The perfect human being. He is going through it when he's in that teen. So if you have problems or if you have problems with teenage kids, don't worry about it. If Lord Rama could go through it, well, we can also go through it. That is the beauty of these scriptures. So his father, King Dasharatha, calls the family guru, the Kula Guru, the Raja Guru, Vashishta. He says, my dear Maharishi, Vashishta is one of the great Maharishis. He is a Brahma Rishi. And he says, Vashishta ji, please, for God's sake, counsel my son. Help him see the light and help him come out of this depression, which is so deep. His lethargy, his depression. There's a term called dyshedonia, where everything, you don't like anything. You know, the hedonistic, dyshedonia it's called. Where nothing gets you going, okay? It's one of those states. And sage Vashishta gives this beautiful teaching to Lord Rama. The Yoga Vashishta, one of Ammaji's favorite scriptures. I know it is a favorite of so many other of my favorite people, including Stomaji and others. Sage Vashishta gives this teaching. And in that teaching, there is one segment where the young Rama asks Vashishta, he says, what is this thing called disease? Why do we get disease? What is it? And Vashishta gives him the beautiful teachings. He says, the diseases are of two types. He says they can be Adija, Anadija. So Ja means to be born, like Genesis. Genes, Genesis, like cellulogenesis, pathogenesis. Not the genes you wear around here, the genes that, make you what you are and give you the scope to be what you need to be. Ja refers to the Genesis. Adija, that which is caused by the Adi, and Anadija, that which is not caused by the Adi. So what is this Adi? It is the cause. It is the beginning. Hence, when we talk about the divine, we say the divine is Anadi. The divine is Anadi, meaning that the divine has no beginning. God has no beginning. The universe has no beginning. That type of concept is there. Without beginning. Anadi. And has no end. Anta means end. Ananta. So Anadi, Ananta, these are the qualities of the divine in the Indian context. Adiyum Antamum Illa Arutperunjodi. We sing of Lord Shiva as that beautiful light that has no beginning and has no end. Adiyum Antamum Illa. Illa means no. One of the words you learn when you come to Tamil Nadu is Illa. Illa means no. I think in every country, the first word you learn in all languages is no. It is forbidden. It's not allowed. Especially if you go to government offices. Adiyam Antamam Illa. So Adi is the cause. Adi is the root. Adi is the beginning. Adi is the most subtle causal layer that you can think of. The starting point, the beginning point. That is Adi. So those disorders that are caused because of an imbalance at the Adi are called Adija Vyadhi. And then those that are not attributed to that are called Anadija. Anadija normally refers to the non-psychosomatic disorders. So most of the time people like to say, oh, these are the infections, these are the accidents, these are the genetic disorders that cannot be explained by psychosomatic. Normal psychosomatics cannot explain it. So they say these are non-psychosomatic. However, I beg to differ, because for me, everything is psychosomatic. Because even an infection, we have all learned that during the COVID, depending on your state of mind and your psychosomatic health, that infection will either come into you or not come into you. And if it comes into you, the severity could be moderate, severe, or very severe. All of that depends on the psychosomatic component. Again, accidents, though we say, oh, they are non-psychosomatic, they are very, very psychosomatic. Because either your mind was not where it should be, or that other person's mind was not where it should be, leading to the accident. So ultimately, if you try to analyze it, you will end up by saying that every disorder you can think of is either caused by psychosomatics, it is aggravated or worsened by psychosomatics, or precipitated by psychosomatics. So even genetic disorders, there may be a precipitation, which could be understood as the psychosomatic element of even those congenital disorders. Coming back, so that is Anadija. I keep it as a small bit because I feel that it just should be there to give you the big picture. But the most important is the Adija Vyadhi, which Swamiji used to call Adhi Vyadhi. So the higher and the lower, as above, so below. That concept of the macrocosm and the microcosm becomes Adhi Vyadhi. So in this Adija Vyadhi, the disorders that are coming because of the Adi, again Sage Vashishta subclassifies it into two types. He says there is the Sara Adija Vyadhi and Samanya Adija Vyadhi. So the Sara Adija Vyadhi and Samanya Adija Vyadhi. What is this Samanya? Samanya means that which is ordinary, that which is common, that which can be easily dealt with. And so all the diseases that we doctors talk about, they all come under Samanya Adija Vyadhi. These are the common disorders. And it is said, either you can use mantras to heal them, you can use aushadhi herbs to heal them, which will be understood as a modern pharma industry. They will come under aushadhi. The mantra, aushadhi, you can do the surgical techniques to deal with it. All of these techniques will be the treatment that is utilized to deal with Samanya Adija Vyadhi. The ordinary, commonly occurring psychosomatic disorders, you have all these mechanisms. But what is the Sara Adija Vyadhi? What is the most essential one? There sage Vashishta says, that is the disorder of being born again and again and again and again and again and again, and you nag yourself for countless lifetimes. Nagging yourself for countless lifetimes by being born again, nagging, and that's what happens to you. Very, very simple. Sara Adija Vyadhi, the essential disorder of psychosomatic nature, is that of being born again and again. Because why are we born again and again? Because we haven't learned the lesson the last time. We haven't learned the lesson the last time. That is why we have to come back again. If you had learned the lesson last time, if I had learned the lesson last time, I would not be here, you would not be here. Speaking of being here, I have with me Shrikant sitting right in front of me, all the way from Canada. Some weeks back we had Murali from Australia, and now we have Shrikant here. Beautiful human being, a wonderful human being, one of my dear younger brothers in yoga, and to have him here and his beautiful children here, I think it's such a blessing. Enjoying their time with Ammaji, with Devasena. Last night Devasena danced for them. And then having Divya and Anandaji enjoying with the young brother and sister, Canadian brother and sister. We manifest again and again and again and again, and that is why the Bhagavad Gita says, why are you so worried when somebody dies or when you die? Because it is like just changing your clothes. Do you sit down and cry every day when you change your clothes? I hope not. Do you start to cry when you change your car? Sometimes you have to change your car, you have to change your house, you have to change your job. Well, it may not be pleasant, but still it's part and parcel of change. The only constant is change. Change is the only constant. So constantly you are changing. That is why Krishna says, why grieve about that which is part and parcel of the universal law? To be born again and again and again and again. And we go through countless lifetimes. The Shiva Samhita and others, they teach us. The Garuda Purana teaches us 8.4 million lifetimes in the forms of creatures from slime. Yeah, COVID virus is part of that one incarnation. All the bacteria, all the parasites from slime, Shvedaja, from eggs, Andaja, from seed, Udbija, and then from the womb, Jarayuja. 2.1, 2.1, 2.1, 2.1, 8.4 million. That is why it is said 8.4 million asanas are said to exist in the yogic tradition. Each life form has its own asana. That state of being where it is at ease with itself. The snake asana is where the snake is at ease with itself. The elephant asana is where the elephant is at ease with itself. Whether it looks like a snake or elephant is secondary. It is a state of being. Asana is a state of being. So we are constantly being born again and again and again and again and again and again. Now, the trick here is if you learn your lesson and you have self-realization, Once you realize the self, you don't have to be born again and again, because all of these incarnations are nothing but a search for the self. All the incarnations are a search for the self. So until and unless you find yourself, until and unless you are re-established in your own self, you are going to have to be born again and again, because it's a disease. And that is why, what is the remedy for the Sara Adija Vyadhi? Atma Jnana. Knowledge of the self. That highest wisdom of who we truly are. Atma Jnana is the remedy for Sara Adija Vyadhi. And that is why in the Guru Stotra it is said, Aneka janma samprapta karma bandha vidahine Atma Jnana pradhanena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. We offer our salutations to that Guru who enables us to attain to Atma Jnana, and by doing so eradicate all the karmic bondages of countless lifetimes, so that once and for all we can be free forever, eternally. That is why Atma Jnana is given such great importance. Om Aneka Janma Samprapta Karma Bandha Vidahine Atma Jnana Pradhanena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Atma Jnana Pradhanena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. That Atma Jnana, which is the antidote, the remedy, the medicine, the chikitsa, the treatment to eradicate the disease of having to be born again and again and again and again. So when we talk about this Adi and Vyadhi, what we realize is disease is occurring, the Vyadhi is occurring when we forget who we truly are. When we move away from being who we truly are, then we are truly diseased. When society stops being a society, when a human being stops being a human being, they are diseased. When a culture stops being a culture, it is diseased. When we are what we are to be, we are healthy. Because there is a sense of oneness. Health, wellness is a state of oneness. Wellness is a state of oneness. Both are states of being. And this is why when we talk about this Adi and Vyadhi, what we need to realize is that the highest Samadhi, Sama-Adi. Again, look at that word, Adi is coming in. That is why Samadhi is often described as the perfect state of health. The perfect state of health, well-being and wellness may be described also as Samadhi. Because now you are one with the Adi, but when you lose that oneness with the Adi, duality occurs. A gap occurs. And the moment duality occurs, you have moved away from ease and it has become dis-ease. This movement away from ease into dis-ease, from oneness into duality, from ekam into what is called dvitiyam. From ekam. Ekam is oneness. Ekam is oneness. And from that oneness we have split away. There's been a tearing, like Velcro coming apart. No wonder it's painful. No wonder It is having all that dukkha. Because that painful suffering, tapatraya, dukkhatraya, adi bhautika, adi daivika, adhyatmika, all that dukkha, all that suffering, because you have torn yourself away from oneness. You have broken that wholesomeness. Health is wholesomeness. Swast, the state of perfect health. Samadosha sama agnischa samadhatu malakriya prasanna atma indriyam mana swast ityabhidiyate, says Shushruta 600 BC, where that beautiful sense of sama, that is why samadhi as another concept of it, samadosha, sama agnischa, samadhatu and samadhi, that oneness, regaining oneness is what health is all about. So we have moved away from oneness into duality, from ekam into dvitiyam, and this is where the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, the largest Upanishad in Indian tradition, Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad. Aranyaka is the forest. In that Upanishad, it is saying, where does fear arise? Bhayam. He says, Bhayam comes from Dvitiyam. From duality comes fear. In non-duality, there is no fear. What a beautiful gem of wisdom this culture has given us. When there is a sense of oneness, there is abhayam, fearlessness. Because if we are all one, what is there to be afraid of? But the moment I think you are different than me, the moment I say you speak a different language, you look different than me, you eat different than me, you pray different than me, you walk different than me, now you have become the unknown stranger. You have become the stranger, and there is duality, and so there is fear. And when you are fearful, the whole stress response cascade has come in. The snowball has become an avalanche. And unless you are James Bond or Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible, you are in trouble. Those are the two guys who can manage an avalanche. The rest of us need a snowball. We need to find that oneness, because it is that Adi where all aspects of us, all our Panchakosha, Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha, Anandamaya Kosha, all of them are in a state of oneness. That oneness of all the kosha is perfect health. When your mind, body, all aspects of you are one, you are healthy. Because now you are in a state of samadhi, oneness, equipoise, equibalance, equanimity with the highest. There is no duality. If there is no duality, where is the fear? If there is no duality, where is the disease? It doesn't exist. And this is why the moment that we feel different, the moment we feel separated, disease has come in. And that is why we live in a sick society today, because everything is based on divisions. Everything is based on divisions. It has to be sans frontiers. It has to be without boundaries. The moment there are boundaries, the moment there are divisions, it is a sick society. The moment there have to be divisions and boundaries in relationships, it's a sick relationship. The moment there has to be boundaries and divisions within you, you are definitely sick. And I'm using that word sick really in a sick manner. Crazy. When the mind and the body, both are you. The mind says, I don't like that body. And the body says, as if I ever liked you. You know that talk? Mind-body talk? Mind's like, seriously, I never wanted to be associated with this body. The body's like, same to you. Kids talking to each other. I don't like you. Same to you. This is kid talk. The mind and body are saying that I don't like you. I don't like you. You are not me. I want a new mind. I want a new body. When the mind says I want a new body, you know what that is? Cancer. The mind says I don't like this body. I want to create my own body, but it doesn't know what to do. It doesn't have the capabilities. It doesn't have the capacity. It's like a small kid trying to create a 120 floor building. It's going to make a mess. And this is where, when the mind and body has split, a duality has occurred between the mind and body, we end up with the psychosomatic disorders, and nearly every disorder you can think about today is psychosomatic. Adhi Vyadhi. And this is why many years ago I came upon a beautiful teaching by Dr. K.N. Udupa, who was working with the Banaras Hindu University, one of the early researchers in yoga. He did a lot of work with Kaya Chikitsa, that is, working with the body and dealing with diseases. He had a very nice writing on stress where he explained the yogic perspective and how stress goes through 4 stages from the yogic perspective. He said there is a psychic phase. The psychic phase is where your mind and you are not at ease with each other. So there is a mental imbalance. You don't feel at ease with yourself. Duality, Dvitiyam, split. That, if not corrected, leads to psychosomatic stage. Now that imbalance at the mind and above, psyche in Indian context is mind and above, not just the mind and emotion. The modern concept of psyche is mind and emotion normally. How you think and how you feel is considered the psyche. In Indian thought, it goes all the way up to your connection with the cosmos. The connectivity of Prakriti and Purusha, that is psyche, according to the Indian thought. So we have to be very careful here. That is why Swamiji said the first disease is where you feel different from the universe in which you live. When you feel you are different than the universe, you have already split apart. Division has occurred. The Velcro has come apart. The zip has broken. This psychic stage, if not corrected, leads to psychosomatic stage, where the body starts to respond in an agitated manner, an imbalanced manner. What Maharishi Patanjali calls as Angame Jayatva, which are the tremors, and Shwasa Prashwasa, irregular breathing. He says that along with the Antaraya, there are the 4 Sahabhuvaha, the attendant symptoms, Dukkha, Dhaurmanasya, Angame Jayatva, Shwasa Prashwasa. He talks about Vikshepa Sahabhuvaha. That Dukkha Dhaurmanasya, Angame Jayatva, Shwasa Prashwasa, Vikshepa Sahabhuvaha. They are the attendant symptoms that come with the obstacles. But especially Angame Jayatva, the trembling of the body, the imbalance at the bodily level. The limbs are imbalanced. Every component of you is imbalanced. Anga is not just the limbs. Anga is every component of who you are. Every component of you physically has become imbalanced. Angame Jayatva. And your breathing has become imbalanced. The moment your breathing is imbalanced, your autonomic nervous system is imbalanced. Amazing wisdom from Maharishi Patanjali that depicts the psychosomatic stage. If you rectify it, you go back to normal. If not, it starts to become permanent in the body. It's called somatic stage. So that imbalance which was triggered by at the mental level now has come down from the Manomaya Kosha down into the Pranamaya Kosha, through the Pranamaya Kosha into Annamaya Kosha. Now normally the Anandamaya, Vijnanamaya, they are quite healthy. But the lower three koshas, we have more control about them. The Manomaya, Pranamaya and Annamaya. Hence we create more problems with them. So psychic stage, you can understand it as being in the Manomaya Kosha. Psychosomatic is Manomaya to Pranamaya. Somatic is Pranamaya to Annamaya. And then you have what is called organic stage, where it is totally in the Annamaya and it starts to become organic damage. Target organ damage, TOD. So in different diseases, we say certain organs are the target of damage. For example, in diabetes, we say the kidneys, the eyes, the heart, the nervous system. Well, every organ in your body gets damaged, but we call them target organ damage, TOD. This is the organic stage. So we don't mean organic in organic farming. This is not that. This is an unhealthy organic where even your organs have got so damaged that now it is very difficult to deal with it. So psychic, psychosomatic, somatic and organic. This is how this has come. If you can catch the imbalance when it is at psychic level or psychosomatic level, you can actually get back to what could be called 100% cure. Psychic and psychosomatic. And yoga chikitsa, even as a single modality, monotherapy, may be able to deal with it at that level. If you can rearrange your thinking, this is why it all boils down to perspective. Perspective is all. It boils down to that. If you can change the perspective, if you can change the attitudes, if you can change the way you think and feel about yourself and others, if you can start to change the way you live, lifestyle modification, achar, vichar, ahar, vihar and vyavahar, psychic and psychosomatic can be dealt with. You can move from Vyadhi to Adi, Vyadhi to Adi through Samadhi. That's the pattern. But once it becomes somatic, now the disease has become permanent in the body. Earlier you had labile hypertension. The hypertension would be there, sometimes would not be there. You have conditions like gestational diabetes, where the diabetes is there in the mother while she's pregnant. After delivery, her sugar metabolism goes back to normal. Okay. But what happens if you don't take care of yourself? Later on, you become more susceptible to that disease. Psychosomatic has become somatic. Somatic is where constantly you are in a state of imbalance. So your blood pressure is elevated at all times. Earlier, your blood pressure went up when you were stressed. Your blood pressure went up at work, but you came home and it was normal. Or your blood pressure was normal at work and it went up when you came home. Fine. So when you went to work, you were normal. When you came home, you were abnormal. Okay, fine. But then when you were sleeping, your blood pressure was normal. But now in the somatic stage, what has happened? Whether you are sitting, whether you are lying down, whether you are sleeping, whether you are eating, whether you are at work, whether you are with people you love, whether you are with people you hate, your blood pressure is always high. Now it has become somatic. Now at this point, yoga therapy on its own may not be enough. We have to acknowledge this. And that is where other forms of therapy, be it the modern medical system or the Ayush systems, the CAM systems, the traditional complementary integrative medicine systems, they need to come together. So you need an antihypertensive, but the antihypertensive on its own may not be enough. You need the yoga chikitsa with it, which is what we call adjuvant yoga therapy. Adjuvant yoga therapy, which is what we are practicing at the site of Sri Balaji Vidyapith, which from the 22nd of August is going to be an institute of salutogenesis and complementary medicine. We have the official inauguration on 22nd of August. A growth of a center into an institute where we will have yoga therapy and music therapy coming together to facilitate health, wellness, well-being. Wellness for all is our motto of the institute. Wellness for all. Salutogenesis. So you may need, so it becomes adjuvant. And then once you come into the organic stage of the disease, the organs are damaged. So this person had hypertension, they had diabetes, they had so many conditions, and now the kidneys have given out. They have gone into renal failure. They need dialysis. Now the medical system becomes the primary system of treatment. And your treatment is now not trying to cure the disease, you are trying to heal the person and you are trying to give them support. So the role of yoga as a palliative therapy, yoga chikitsa can come in as a palliative therapy in that final stage, which is target organ damage. You can enhance quality of life, make life more livable. And if people are close to the time of dying, terminal cases, you can help them die with dignity. You can help them leave the body in a better state of mind than they would have left without that yoga chikitsa. So these 4 stages, psychic, psychosomatic, somatic and organic, enable us to understand the Adhi Vyadhi model and to realize that yoga chikitsa, yoga as a therapy, has a role in all of this. But the most important thing is not to wait for the disease to manifest. We need to start proactively. Heyam dukkham anagatam, says Maharishi Patanjali. Prevent those miseries that are yet to come. Start to change your attitude. Start to enhance your perspective, enlarge your perspective into a beautiful perspective of oneness rather than dichotomy and divisions and duality. Move into that state where you can see everybody as a friend. You can live with the feeling of Vasudhaiva Kudumbakam. The whole world is one family. You can say, as our great Tamilian culture has said for thousands of years, Yadum Mure Yabaram Kele. Every place is my hometown and everybody is my kinsman. When we have that sense of oneness, we can move from Vyadhi to Adi. We move from Dvitiyam to Ekam. We move from disease to a state of ease. May we manifest this oneness in our life. May every component of who we are be a part of the integrated, wholesome experience of Purnam. Let that Purnamada Purnamidam come alive in every one of us. May we develop the capacity to grow in Atma Jnana, to eradicate the Sara Adija Vyadhi, while dealing with the Samanya Adija Vyadhi with the tools that have been given to us by the great masters of Yoga Chikitsa. May you all be blessed, be a blessing wherever you are, and manifest health, wellness and well-being. May abundance be there in your life, and may you enable others to attain to that Atma Jnana, moving from division to oneness, from dichotomy to wholesomeness, from fragmentation into a defragmented, unfragmented sense of the universal oneness. Hari Om Tat Sat. Thank you so much. Dhanyavadaha. Nandri Vanakkam.